Most businesses today face two major marketing challenges. One, people are overloaded by information. We're talking about 4.5 billion pieces of new content every day. And two, people have much shorter attention spans and spend only about 8 seconds on anything before they jump onto the next thing. It's no wonder that companies are struggling to get their message heard. The result of poor marketing communications is that half of all new business ventures fail in their first 4 years, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. With this in mind, Visual Storytelling Institute co-founders Shlomi Ron and Alex Caravallo asked themselves, how can businesses connect more powerfully with audiences? Welcome to Visual Storytelling Today. This is your #1 source for the latest and most effective business marketing strategies you can apply today to rise above the noise. From video and infographics to augmented and virtual reality, join us every month to meet notable visual storytellers and discover their marketing insights and stories. Here's your host, Alex DeCaravallo.
Hey, good morning, Hugh. It's great to be on the show with you.
Hi, Alex.
Hey, dude. So, I've had the great privilege of knowing you for, the last 12 or 13 years? From those days of...
2004, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So from the blogs in Paris and the web conference and in Copenhagen. So it's incredible. Those were like the heydays. It was the start of something huge back then. And I didn't realize how big it was going to be.
We were still young back then too, so everything was new.
Everything was new, yeah. And at the time, you were one of the top bloggers. I think one of the top 10 or 100 bloggers.
Yeah, I would have been. Yeah, I was probably one of the top bloggers. I was probably me and the guy who drew. We were drawing cartoons. So it wasn't like I was the top. There were very few cartoonists blogging back then, so I kind of stood out. It wasn't because I was smarter than anybody else.
Wow, your blog was kind of addictive. I think the first time I saw your cartoon, I was like, "What is this?" It had such a it's in a way it's poignant. It's also incisive. It just grabs you, and you're like, "Wow, let's talk about my life." So
the thing was back then, up until the time the blogs came along. Before the internet, really, you had to get your stuff published. You had to have somebody else agree to publish it, and so you had to jump through a lot of hoops. So you had to invent a property. So you have to invent, a Bubbly Ducky or Charlie Brown or Garfield or something like that, and you have to kind of build it into a product, and then you'd have to go through all the whatever you're going to call it, all the machinations. Or you need an editor or a magazine or something. You need to put a filtered stroke gatekeeper stroke, But with blogs, it didn't cost anything, you see. You didn't have to pay a webmaster. You just scan it and put it up there. And you could do whatever you wanted. And because I had already kind of renounced all ambition of ever doing professionally, I did just do what I liked. And so that made it stand out. And see, back then, that was still considered impertinent just for a cartoonist to do what he likes because, it meant that I hadn't gone through the proper channels. I mean, it sounds ridiculous saying it now, 15 years later, but that's kind of how it was seen. But, and then, but now everybody does it, and so now it's,
but you grew that into more than, just the blog with cartoons. You then started to talk about marketing and the death of advertising, and you did the Hugh Train manifesto, following the Clue Train.
I found out, as a lot of, quote-unquote A-lister bloggers found out the hard way. It's just because somebody wants to take a picture of you, take the picture of themselves with you at a conference, take a selfie with you, doesn't mean they want to give you money. This is internet famous, and you need to line up to give you cash, and so you actually need some kind of business. So, the cartoons, to me, the cartoons were never the thing. The cartoons were always the catalyst to something else. They're always like, to me, they're always you know, the old story of, you know, people who found a Southwest Airlines, and that lasts for about a week. When your fan base cashes in on that, you cash in on your fan base, but then after a while, you have to ask, well, what problem am I actually solving for these people?
Right.
And then you have an actual business. When you start asking that question and trying to answer it. And so me and Jason, you know, my business partner, you know, Gapingvoid co-founder, I mean, yeah, we've been working together for 12, 13 years, something like that. We really asked though, you know, what problem we're solving. You know, how is it going to move somebody else's needle? Because if it doesn't, then we're just whistling Dixie. So,
right.
So anyway, I think anybody who's tried to be a Web 2.0 or you know, post-blog social media person has seen this. Anyone who's been social media in the social media space for more than 4 years has seen it evolve fast, 1 or 2 generations, have seen the needs change, have seen the business model change, have seen you having to keep on reinventing the offering, if that makes any sense. So the kind of advice that would have, you know, that only 1 or 2 people knew 10 years ago, now 1,000 people know, and all of a sudden, that specialist knowledge is not special anymore. So you have to, you know, keep ahead of the curve, I guess. And to be fair enough, me and Jason, I mean, we saw that coming, I'd say, pretty quickly. You know, we saw it coming pretty quickly. We said, you know, this stuff will last, something else will change, and that's what happened, so that's fine. So,
right, because you were working, you were creating these things called global micro brands, and you've done a number of them,
right.
And then you get the Stone Hook.
Yeah,
then,
we're trying to use the internet to kind of create these kind of brands that had global reaches, you know, that could, like, because with the internet, you know, you could build a tribe of users around the globe for very little money. I mean, with a caveat, this is 15 years ago. This idea where you have a product, whatever the product may be, and you have whatever the number may be, 1,000 people, 10,000 people, whatever, 100 people around the globe want to give you money. And you use the internet, stroke blog, stroke 2.0, stroke social media to keep them corralled. to give it, you know, right now we have our main thing. Yeah, ever since Facebook comes along, you know, we don't find Facebook a very good marketing platform. So we send out email, MailChimp, and that kind of keeps our tribe engaged. That's our main way of keeping our tribe engaged. Whether that's still the case in five years, I have no idea. I mean, things come down the road. We see Snapchat. We say, "What if this works?" It goes, "Not for us." But never mind. You know, I mean, you tinker with stuff. I think you tinker with stuff. And trying to get 100% into everything is just going to kill you. There's no point doing that.
Right. No. So here, I'm interested in the visual aspect of what you do. So, you know, I'd like to get your backstory. You know, how did you get into copywriting first? I think you worked for your net. So how did that happen? And then we'll talk about what you're doing today with Gapingvoid and the culture change and culture science, what you're doing, and then a little bit about what you think where all of this is going. So, so how did you get into copywriting in the first place?
Well, okay, that's really easy. I was drawing cartoons. I was an English major at the University of Texas, and I was drawing cartoons for the local paper, the Austin Chronicle. But they were paying me $15 a week, which is actually quite a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, didn't seem at the time, but it's actually quite a lot compared to how much they're paying now. That's actually quite a lot of money. And I thought to myself, okay, well, this is not going to work out. I better get a job. So I took an advertising class at university, and I kind of said, well, this kind of uses the same part of my brain as cartooning, except you get paid. You have a job, you know, so I was moving to over that. But to me, it was just a sideways move. It wasn't really a complete departure. It's just like, okay, well, this is sort of similar kind of. It also, gave me access to the real world. It gave me, got me into the business world where the action is. And but as you probably can imagine, being an advertising business is kind of a grind. It's pretty hard work. It's pretty unforgiving. And so you're always in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, what comes next? I won't be able to do this forever. And so, and just when my career was starting to kind of plateau or about to go into terminal decline, the internet came along. And I thought to myself, blogging came along. And I thought to myself, well, I had this idea about my cartoons. I started publishing my cartoons online, thinking to myself, well, I'm never going to be accepted by Hollywood. I'm never going to be called for a meeting in New York. I'm never going to be anointed by the chosen ones. I'm never going to be on the A-team. I'm never going to be picked. What I can do is I can pick myself. What I can do is I can say, okay, find 10,000 people on the internet who like my stuff, want to give me money every year. And that's all I have to do. And that's kind of what I started to do.
You started to publish it without really knowing where that was going to go. You were just you're building an audience in the community.
I had an audience, and then once you have an audience, you have two things. You don't have the answer overnight. It takes years. And you say, okay, what am I really selling, and what are they really buying? Who are these people? What are they really buying? What do they really need? It's because people don't need art really, and they need something else. And what is that other thing? And so for the last 13 or 14 years, Jason and I have been asking that question, kind of evolving that. And what we've decided is we sell to corporate clients, we sell to businesses. What businesses really want to do more than anything else is make a difference. And to do that, you need a culture that allows you to do that. And to do that, you need a culture that allows the kind of behaviors that allows you to build that. And so what we want to do is kind of create art that reinforces those kind of behaviors. And also, not just art, create other tools that help companies, help leaders reinforce certain kind of behaviors that are good for building strong, powerful cultures. And there's an art element to that, and that's my main jam. But there are other parts to it as well. Data collection and Six Sigma stuff and stuff I'm just completely unqualified to talk about. So it's quite complex. But I mean, I'm in the art side of it. So, but the basic value proposition is we can help your culture because we create these tools that reinforce certain kind of behaviors that improve culture. And that's the money shot. That's what we're doing. Art large distribution and so that's the kind of real life application to making art for me, at least.
Right. So this is a culture science methodology that you're using at Gapingvoid.
Yeah, we call it culture science. Yeah, and we also call it culture design as well. Culture design, when we try to we use the science to kind of create the design, I suppose, or there's a kind of gray area between the two, I suppose. But you call it culture science if you want. And we try to apply that. I'm more on the artistic side of it, so I'm not, like I said, I'm not the expert, but we try to use kind of culture design to kind of change companies, and we try to create tools that help make it easier to do that. Yeah, that's kind of what we do.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
And it's been pretty successful. I mean, we have clients like Zappos and Rackspace and Microsoft, and some pretty big clients. We need some pretty interesting work with people. And it's interesting for us because as an artist, you're going into an organization and you're not just making content. You're not just creating. You're kind of creating stuff that actually changes people. You're not just kind of creating digital landfill for people, content landfill.
Right.
You're actually trying to create stuff that's actually meaningful to people, or else it doesn't work. So you might as well go and try to create that. So it's not like you're just writing memos for people. Writing memos for cash. You're not just sending out email that don't get read. You're actually kind of creating stuff that's designed for impact. And also,
right. So your cartoons are designed for impact. They combine like your copywriting or some text plus images.
Yeah.
Right. And
yeah.
So that
cartoons are
combination.
Cartoons are very, I think, very impactful media because they're fun and they're simple, and they're very. They're also very minimalist. You don't really need anything in a cartoon that doesn't belong there, so you can take everything out. That makes any sense. You don't need a lot of detail. You don't need a lot of texture. You can just remove everything but what you need. If that makes any sense. And that's kind of like a well-packed backpack on a camping trip. You just don't take anything you don't need along with you because there's no point. And that's a very liberating thing. And I like that liberation that cartoons have. And also, a cartoon takes 5 seconds to hit somebody, whereas a book or a memo or something takes hours. So it's very quick. And it doesn't look like an advertisement, which is what the disadvantage of using a photograph. It just looks like an advertisement. It looks like something you see in a magazine.
Yeah, so I think I would say there's a aha moment. You look at it and then you're like, aha, and that grabs you emotionally as well.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of connects with you emotionally, and that's when a good cartoon works. I met this kind of, he's not famous in America. He's quite well known in Scotland. His name is Magnus Linklater. He's a kind of well-known editor of the Scotsman, a newspaper editor, like been around for ages. And he's a well-known journalist. He just said, cartoons. All a cartoon has to do is work. It doesn't matter how well they're written or drawn. They have to work. They either work or they don't. If they work, they work. If they don't work, they fail.
Right.
And that's kind of I like a kind of binary aspect to them. It's like I'll get people writing in saying, "Well, I did not like that cartoon." I go, "Well, I already drawn it, and you already read it, so I'm afraid I can only, I'll make the next one better, but that's about all I can promise." I'll try to make the next one better, but I mean, what do you want me to do? Go and erase it? No, you already read it.
Yeah.
It only took 5 seconds. You're right. It's not like you spend an hour on it.
Right.
Right. So it's a media that when you're trying to get messages throughout organizations, it's a way to me, I like it because I think it's a great way to get people's attention in that kind of fun, non-invasive way, as opposed to, let's buy a piece of stock photography and write a piece of copy and make it look like everything else, in corporate America, and, the usual shit, the same stuff everybody else does, and then wonder why it gets ignored. And we actually,
absolutely. So one of you've had this viral hit. You've had many, but one of them is the information knowledge cartoon, where on one side you have information and a bunch of dots, and then knowledge where it's connecting all the dots.
And that's been copied and riffed on, and people have taken it and used it to make their own cartoons.
Make their own versions of it. They remix it. They remix it. They have their own ideas.
They say they use it as a launch pad for something else, some third thing, which is far more interesting than anything I drew. So I like that, and it was a way of And so what do? We just and we have a website somewhere that we're stacking up. We're a Tumblr blog where we show them. Somebody does new with them. So we're not trying to suppress it at all. We're going, yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Right. So people have really appropriated it for themselves.
Memes are like that. I mean, and the thing about memes is like you can't really control them. And if you try to control them, nothing happens.
Why do you think this one in particular resonated so much?
I think what is the difference between information and knowledge? And I think it's kind of like it kind of visually contextualized it without saying anything. So it's just kind of it joined the dots, no pun intended.
Right.
Because everyone's kind of trying to figure out the difference between just bits and stuff. The ones and zeros out there, the trillions of bits of information out there that we all have. It is stuff that's actually truth. That's actually truly meaningful and truly useful. I mean, the world's a complicated place. You know what I mean? There's your coffee mug has trillions of bits of information in it. If you look at it closely enough. The relationships between things are insanely complicated, insanely complex, and we are kind of born into this universe of infinite complexity, and we need stuff that kind of, simplifies our lives. That makes things less complex. And the things that in your life that are going to make your life simpler are actually very rare. And so the thing that come along and actually, like I'm trying to give a good example, something that makes your life a lot simpler, a lot easier. Like an axe in the woods. You have an axe, your life's a lot easier than if you don't have an axe or a knife or something like that.
That's interesting. So, that's really interesting. I like that. So, what would be your tips for marketers to capture audiences' attentions? I think it sounds like that is one of the tips is make it easier for your clients or your customers. Like make it easier.
I'll tell you why they make it harder on themselves, right? I'll say this. We because of where we are in business alone, we see a lot of business-related content out there, a lot of marketing material, a lot of internal memos, a lot of writing out there, and most of it's ghastly, most of it's awful. Most of it's just like corporate doublespeak that no one's going to read, nobody's going to care about, nobody's going to retain, no one's going to remember. It's just going to go and off somewhere and die. Means nothing to anybody, but yet they spend thousands of millions of billions of dollars writing this stuff. And I was thinking about this. Why do they do this? Why do they waste all this energy? And then I realized that they're doing advertising as well. It's because they're writing for their boss. They're not writing for the people who are actually using the information. They're not writing for the end user. They're writing to show their boss that they ticked up all the boxes, and the boss has all these boxes he wants to tick off, and everyone's ticking up all their boxes. Meanwhile, the end user doesn't care about your damn boxes. He just cares about, why should I be interested? What are you going to do for me? And there's that kind of disconnect between your little list of boxes and reality. So, and I think that's where marketers fail the most, is that they make it all about themselves. They forget about them. They forget to apply common sense to their own marketing. They say, well, why would anybody want to read a phone book? Why do you think anyone would want to bore themselves shitless listening to your shit? They don't. So why do you spend all this time in a meeting trying to convince yourself they do when they don't? People don't care about boring stuff. They don't care about you. What do you care about? Talk about that.
Right. Yeah. One of my favorite cartoons that you've made is is the one that says, you know, if you spoke to people like an ad, they'd punch you in the stomach.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, if you talk to people the way, if you talk to advertising, if you talk to people the way advertising talk to people, they punch you in the face.
Right.
And that's exactly true. And so, and you know, there's a rare marketer who can just kind of talk to people like a human being. You know who did a really good job? I can't remember his name, but the CEO of that shaver commercial, the Shave Club, Dollar Shave Club. That CEO who turned you around the warehouse, saying, you know, that was completely honest. That kind of totally came out of his. That was totally him. You know what I mean? It wasn't like it worked because he wasn't trying to be something else.
Like,
and he's just on a razor. He wasn't talking about he wasn't pontificating.
Right.
Yes.
Hugh, where do you draw your inspiration from? Are there cartoons? Is it are there ads? Like,
oh boy,
how do you...
boy. I think okay. Not really cartoons so much. No, not art so much. I like art a little bit. You know, art. I get tired of art really quickly. I like reading a lot, and I like jazz records. And I like music, but I really like. I like jazz. I like jazz records, and I like to read books. And those two things get me fired up the most, I think. And then I take that kind of fired up feeling and say, okay, let's see if I can capture that in a line drawing. And I just try to do that, I suppose. And then the world's a pretty interesting place. You know, I mean. To me, I think I'm very interested in what motivates human beings more than some people are very interested by technology, especially my certain. You know, and everyone's like interested in like the latest fad or the latest trend or the latest this or the latest that. But I'm actually interested in like what actually drives human behavior. Like, what's the real reason that people are doing things? You know, why are they really saying what they're saying? I always like to kind of get behind. You know. I would have to get behind the curtain and say, okay, why is he really doing this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, what motivates somebody to go, let's say, okay, here's an example. You know, why does somebody like leave everything to go, I don't know, let's say go to Silicon Valley and, you know, take a massive pay cut or a massive dive in his quality of life just so he can, you know, sit in front of a computer all day. His job isn't very good, but why does he feel like compelled that he has? Why does he have to feel like he has to do that? Why do people have FOMO, fear of missing out? Why do people feel like, you know, they have to do things in case, you know? And that's just one question. Why do people do this? Why do people do that? That's a big influence from me. Is human motivation. So you know, when I listen, you know, when Mark, it's like somebody like Mark Zuckerberg says, "Yeah, we're going to connect the world," you kind of say, "Well, what's he really trying to do? Because the world's already connected. We don't need you." So what's your real motivation?
Right.
What are you really trying to do?
Right.
What are you really afraid of? What's Mark Zuckerberg afraid of? Well, that's interesting. And why? And you're afraid of that? Then why is he talking about something else? I don't know. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. He's no different than anybody else. I'm just saying it's interesting to me what people say, what people do are two different things. But I like to think about the gap in between.
That's interesting. So, do you so when that inspiration comes to you, you have to write it down right away.
I suppose.
Like,
yeah.
It can come. Yeah. It can come at any time. Yeah. Yeah,
I suppose. I mean, I carry a notebook around with me. I mean, I'm actually pretty good at remembering stuff, so I don't really have to feel like I wouldn't like interrupt a conversation or write something down the way I used to. I just say, I mean, sometimes I won't like. I used to carry around a sketchbook, and that got annoying. So I don't have an idea. I'll just like type it in my phone and keep it because that's less obtrusive.
Right.
And then I used to draw in public a lot more than I do now, just because people it kind of draws attention to people, draws attention to yourself. And I don't like that so much. So,
right.
Really
yeah. Hugh, what do you think is going to happen in the future? What do you see as the future of visual storytelling? What do you think about augmented reality, virtual reality?
Okay. I'm no expert in augmented reality. Or virtual reality. I mean, you should ask Robert Scoble. Virtual reality is kind of, I'm sure it's wonderful. I haven't seen anything that's kind of tangibly my life better yet. I mean, okay, maybe virtual surgery is kind of neat. I don't know, some kind of, maybe you can like do engineering, that's kind of neat, I guess. But I mean, you can do stuff remotely, I suppose. That's quite nice. Augmented reality, well, we already got that a little bit on the phone. It's like, okay, maybe a pair of goggles is a more augmented experience. But do you remember where everyone's walking around looking through goggles? Because that'd be kind of weird and alien. That would have an unintended consequence. I mean, have you ever talked to somebody with Google Glass? It's bloody annoying. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, and also because I'm older, I don't want to. I mean, how much? Once you're over 40, I mean, how much change do you actually want to see in your life? I mean, really.
Yeah.
I mean, so I mean, I'm not. I mean, it's supposed to visual storytelling. I mean, storytelling is storytelling. I don't know the difference between visual and other kinds of storytelling. I'm not an expert in these matters. The thing is, here you go. You look at the book of Genesis, right?
Yeah.
In the beginning, the apple, Adam and Eve. That story, if the academics are to believe, is over 10,000 years old. Maybe as old as 25,000 years old. And we have to say, how does the story last 25,000 years? What's buried in that story? What's bundled into that story that keeps it alive? Because stories that aren't interesting die. What's the thing that really makes a story interesting? And the older I get, the more I figure, you'll figure out more from that. Not by going online and reading, some thought leader douchebag's blog post about it. You'll learn more about it, like me. You'll learn more about it by going to read the Iliad, or going to go read Gilgamesh, or going to go read, Plutarch, or these very old stories. And you see these stories about Bronze Age warriors, and you're kind of going, "Wow, this is really interesting. Why is this interesting?" These kind of what Bill Bernbach used to call simple eternal human truths. And that's what's interesting. Is those things. Always reminding yourself, what are they? And then bringing light to them, making them fresh and new again. And whether you do it through whatever, blogs or virtual reality glasses, doesn't really matter. I mean, there'll be kind of like a bunch of hucksters trying to bring us the next new thing, whether augmented reality stories or content marketing stories or whatever buzzword you want to talk about. But, we're talking about the future of storytelling. Look at the past. Read the Iliad. Read Livy. Read the Viking sagas. Especially read the Iliad. Iliad's fantastic. Read the old stuff, because it's really, because that's where the insight is. The stuff that doesn't change over millennia. That's really interesting.
Really contain those themes that those things that connect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't spend this half hour deconstructing, the Book of Genesis. But I mean, they say one of the things that made our brains evolve to such a high level is because it allowed us to detect snakes, and that's one of the reasons that the serpent's in the Genesis story, because as soon as we became aware the serpent was the same time we became aware of our own consciousness. So I mean, it's a biological connection with the actual mythological connection. Things like that, I mean, that's what I mean. There's stuff that gets bundled into these stories that you look under the hood is really, really fascinating. Why?
Yeah.
Why? You read like a book like I don't know. Let's say Madame Bovary, or some books that's that are 150 years old, and it's such a great book. It's such a great book, and it's so powerful and dark. And why? Why does a story about somebody who would have been dead by now bother us so much? Because in Madame Bovary, we see ourselves, and nothing scares us more than ourselves. So,
right.
Whatever shit's going down with her can happen to us.
Yeah.
So for young people listening to this, yes, take your online courses, read all the blogs, hang out with all the gurus, learn all the buzzwords, sure, but go back and read the classics, and that'll give you a layer. That'll give you a layer of meaning and knowledge to your skill set that you didn't even know existed, and more importantly, your competitors don't exist. So that's my advice.
I think that's brilliant advice, and I think if you really want to be a good marketer, go and read those classics and read those stories, because that's really how you're going to connect best with everyone.
Exactly. Yeah. And, like read about Julius Caesar, read about Alexander, read about Alexander Hamilton, read about General Grant, read about Emily Dickinson, read about read about the great people. Don't read about kind of guru flavor of the month. I don't know. Find out what the real big ideas are, the real big people are, not just the local, flavor of the month.
Right. Right.
But that's what university. That's what university is supposed to be. That's what university is supposed to be about. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's true anymore. I think we're not trying to get your professors fired or whatever. Whatever the hell is up to these days.
Right. Hugh, I think that was brilliant, Hugh. Thanks so much. I learned a lot. How can our viewers best contact you?
Let's see. Well, you can go to gapingvoid.com, and then that's the website. And then my Twitter is HughCards, HughCards. So I'm kind of HughCards or Gapingvoid. I'm pretty easy to find. Okay,
great. So we're going to put this recording up, and we'll have show notes, and we'll put resources on visualstorytell.com. And this is a monthly show. Thank you so much for participating.
Visual Storytelling Today is recorded in Miami, Florida. The show is published exclusively by Visual Storytelling Institute. Learn more at visualstorytell.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on the iTunes Store. Until next time, don't let your big story wait to be told.